All right. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have Dr. Stefan Valdes of the Movement Lab joining us. And yeah, let's just go ahead and let's get right to it. I do want to say before we start, we usually kind of take our time warming up. Everyone gets a little camera shy. And right as we're about to hit that hour, we're kind of getting all the juicy information out and everybody's asking questions. So I do want to say, let's kind of get a quick backstory, from school to how'd you get here now, stuff like that. And then let's kind of get into it. I see we got Andy right here. So hopefully a couple more members trickle in after their exams and we get the ball rolling. But without further ado, yeah.
I'll get started with undergrad. Went to University of Florida, got my degree in applied physiology and kinesiology. At undergrad, I worked for the Florida Gators basketball team. So I originally started as a video guy, basically like a video intern just on the computer all day. And then that translated into a strength and conditioning internship for the basketball team in golf and tennis as well. Then after that, graduated, back to Miami, back home, went to physical therapy school at the University of Miami. While I was still in school, I was training at a gym called Shula's in Miami Lakes. And then we were operating a Thrive program, which is like a Mike Boyle strength conditioning discipleship, as far as like following his programming. So I was working pretty extensively throughout school, not typical as compared to my classmates, especially in the beginning. I started right even before starting school, went from full-time, transitioned straight to part-time, still kept the same amount of clients. So I was making good money throughout school, which was nice. So while I was in PT school at the University of Miami, I still had my connections at University of Florida. Those people ended up in Oklahoma City with Billy Donovan, who's the head coach at Florida. And then so I still had the connection with the OKC Thunder pretty much. So that led to them wanting to do an internship with me as part of my clinical rotations. So my last year of PT school pretty much was with the Thunder and the G League team. So I was working with them in Oklahoma, and then I graduated May 2019. Yeah, May 2019. So that's when I graduated. But before I went to OKC, I had a pretty established personal training clientele, and I didn't want that to go to waste. So I partnered with two other trainers at the time, and be like, here's my clientele. I'm eventually coming back. I'm working interning with the NBA pretty much. This is something that we can grow together. I just need you guys to basically take my clientele and run it. So with that, I had taken out more student loans to help fund my part of the business. And this is how we started Movement Lab. So I was away for the first 6 months of Movement Lab when it first opened up. As I was in Oklahoma City, I came back after my internships when I graduated. Ended up getting a full-time physical therapy job back here in Miami and working part-time for my gym. It was just pretty much one-on-one personal training, semi-private training. That's all we were doing in there. It's 1,000 square feet, not the nicest equipment at all. We had a bunch of Amazon specials that we got, Walmart, Titan Fitness, you name it, but it was a proof of concept and it worked pretty well. And then I got a call from the Detroit Pistons to offer me a job, basically being their head strength conditioning coach for the G League team, and then part-time with assistant strength conditioning coach with their NBA team. So I took that, and then I left my partners again, so let them run things as well. And then I went to Grand Rapids, which is the G League team of Detroit. Was there for 6 months, and then COVID happened. So it's pretty much gotta go home. The Pistons were one of the only teams that didn't make the bubble. So went straight home, focused on my business, which was tanking straight down. We had opened up officially like our location in June 2019. Became profitable in January 2020. Like profitable meaning like by a few $100. Like that was our number for the month pretty much. Not profitable like taking back all our investments, our loans and all that stuff. So a couple $100 in January, a couple $100 in February, and then March COVID hit. So then that kind of became my focus where I can't let this thing sink. So went home, worked on that, and then just kind of blew up from there as far as athletes coming down. One of our first clients was Brandon Knight. So he was a basketball player for the Pistons at the time. So we had that relationship. He came down, he worked with us, and then we just kind of went from 0 to 100 overnight as far as professional athletes, performance training, while still taking care of like our local Miami Lakes community as far as general population training.
Right, right. So hold on, I want to take a time out because I mean,
I know
this
there's a lot of pieces
it's a
going on at
lot.
the same
And
time.
I mean, first of all, I'm just blown away because you said you graduated 2019. I mean, it's March, February 28th of 2023. So you've done a lot in a short amount of time. And this brings me to my first question before we get even further along with your story. You mentioned, you taking out some more loans and letting your partners run the business. And then you just mentioned this steep decline because of COVID. So my question to you is, being a new clinician, being a new business owner, psychologically, how did we navigate this? How does that look like? How did you cope
With COVID in general,
with just these moments of like fear, anticipation, the unknown?
I think as being an entrepreneur, you got to take risk. And
Okay.
every risk has calculations in it, whereas like what is a safe risk and what isn't. And then at the end of the day, people are going to tell you, no, don't do it. It's not smart. But then again, they don't know your work ethic. They don't know what you're willing to do in order to make it work. So with me, like I knew we were going to figure it out. I didn't know how we were going to figure it out. So it's just kind of like staying true to what you believe in and just kind of keeping the focus, keep the main thing the main thing.
Got it. Okay. That totally makes sense. And then I saw Dr. Phil kind of put a comment saying networking 101. And it's just
Yeah.
like so coincidental, the steps of your development. And that just
Basically, the connections I made when I was 18, 19 years old, just trying to be as a sponge, trying to learn from people and trying to provide value led me to where I am now. So it's a lot of it is who you know, but then they give you the people who you know give you the opportunity to make a statement. And then it's about you showing up and showing that like you're worth something.
no, there's definitely value to that statement alone right there. So then progressing with your story, right? So we're getting through COVID. You locked in this relationship with Brandon Knight. You said he's your first athlete. How did we branch off into other sports outside of the NBA in this relationship you developed with Pistons players?
More networking. So down here in Miami, there's a lot of private performance facilities. A lot of these people have been doing this for much longer than I have, but not everyone has the connections in the NBA that I do. So I have those teams that know that I used to be one of them, but now I'm in Miami, which is a popular destination for a lot of players to train in the off season, and they'd rather work with someone who's going to be willing to collaborate with them versus private people who are just always going to bash the team staff in order to bring themselves up. So that does nothing for the player. So I tried to do the exact opposite, where it's like, we need to work together in order to help this player, one in the off season and two in during the season as well. Because it's the most important thing is the benefit of the player. When the private people are against the team people, nothing good happens. It's just chaos. And it's just like he said, she said, he said, and it goes nowhere as far as benefit for the athlete. So teams, I've already developed that reputation as far as like being the private guy in Miami who's willing to work with teams and their medical performance staff. Like these guys are good. They've been doing this for a long time. They eat, sleep, and breathe everything related to their players. Us as being entrepreneurs, we have a lot more things to worry about. So I'm obviously going to listen and work with these people because they know what they're doing. Like they're not dumb as a lot of these Instagram people like to proclaim that these team staff just to bring themselves up.
Wow, that's honestly a perspective that I had never considered, just kind of being open on the private. And so what does that look like as far as communications with like a performance staff as a team? Is it with like directly with their PTs, more so ATC staff? I'm not, what's the dynamics there?
So in NBA, you have your strength conditioning staff, which is your performance team, and then you have your medical staff, which is your athletic training and physical therapy. I kind of fell somewhere in the middle, where I was a strength conditioning. I was on the performance side, but I was a physical therapist. So I kind of went back and forth between the two, which I like that hybrid and that flexibility. So that kind of gives me the ability to talk to both sides. And from a respect factor, we have doctors of physical therapy degrees. Like we're not person with a high school degree, weekend certification, trying to have this dialogue and open communication with the team staff. So it's finding out what they were doing during the season that worked for them, because they've been working with the athlete throughout the entire season. And then what they want out of the athlete in the off season, what the head coach wants, what the general manager wants, what everyone wants is always for the benefit of the athlete. And then most important, find out what the athlete's goals are. So kind of being the quarterback of the off season, where you're getting everyone's opinion as to what their goals are for this person, and then you bring it to the athlete, you tie it into them, and then find out where they think they need the most, and just come up with a program, send it out. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I plan on doing. What are your thoughts? Do you have any feedback? And it's just a trusting relationship.
Got you. That's great. And I know we've kind of touched on a lot of your pro experience right now, but the movement lab, I'm sure you cater to all populations. Dr. Field right now, he leads us in our geriatrics course. So my question to you is, being fresh out of school, what does the movement lab offer for the geriatric population, and how did you get comfortable serving that population? Since, I mean, it seems like your clinical experience was in athletics and
Yeah.
you just hit the ground running with pro sports. So can
So
you kind of,
Movement Lab started as a general population training facility, a
right,
1,000 square feet, and we served our typical clientele was probably 55, 65, well, 45 to 65 was our typical clientele. So it's kind of on the cusp of geriatrics, but like not exactly there. But we did have the grandmothers, the grandfathers; those were our clients as well. So we try to be very broad as to what we offer. So a lot of the clients when we first started was just semi-private training. So for us, that consisted of basically a group of 6, each person doing their own individual workout catered to their goals and how they move. But they're just sharing the cost of the session just in a group of 6. And they're sharing the coach's time and the space. So that allows us to be able to, one, bring in more revenue, because we're charging per person. We're not charging per hour. So if we're doing $100 personal training for an hour, but we're charging $30 for semi-private, it's cheaper for the client, and we can get 6 people in a session. That's $180 of revenue instead of $100. So that kind of goes in, like it's a nice balance of, you have your boot camp, you have your personal training, and you have your semi-private. The semi-private was what we started with to get us started. And then we added the personal training. A lot of our geriatrics populations, they prefer the personal training stuff because they're the ones who, they're retired. They like to play pickleball, golf. They want to focus on things that's going to help them get better at their hobbies. So that's our typical geriatric population. We do have a lot that are still in the semi-private groups, and we still have a lot that are in the one-on-ones. Marketing to them, it kind of varies. I'm a member of a golf club, so I'm out there hitting balls, talking to people. I'm known as the PT around Miami Lakes, so we get patients from there. I go pick a ball every Saturday morning, play with these guys, and developing these relationships for as they know you, as if they need something training or physical therapy related, they can go to you.
so just the presence in the community. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up, because if I'm understanding correctly, you are like from Miami Lakes as well.
Yep.
So, kind of establishing a business that kind of gives back to the community. What does that kind of mean to you?
I mean, that's everything. Just 'cause you have the ability to see your teachers coming in now, your elementary school teachers, they're working out at your gym. You have your principal working out at your gym. You have people that you go to Publix, the grocery store, and you see and they know you because you're the guy who works or and owns Movement Lab. My business partner, I've known him. We went to the same elementary school, so everyone kind of grew up. It's a small town feel in a big Miami city, which makes it unique and cool, at least for me.
No, yeah, that sounds awesome right there, being able to do all of that with all the familiarity. Especially kind of how you went away, kind of established
Yeah.
yourself outside of Florida, came back home. So that's cool. And then I like how you broke it down from the personal training side, the group training side. How does that, or what does it look like on the rehab side? Because I know I've
So,
seen kind of USA Sports Medicine
yeah.
lab. Can we kind of delve into the differences there?
So initially, Movement Lab started when I was still in PT school. So we partnered with a physical therapy clinic. So our partnership with that clinic was to, one, bring in clients for us and help us get started. So that didn't work out too well, just a couple of little things that didn't happen as planned. So that partnership had kind of died down. So, and we had also outgrew our little 1,000 square foot closet basically. So we needed a bigger space. So we moved into a 3,200 square foot facility, and this is our current space, which we opened in August. And then we partnered with a physical therapy company that's well known down here in Miami called USA Sports Medicine. So they are out of network practice. They have a lot of things as far as marketing, as far as resources, as far as mentorship that I don't know from a physical therapy standpoint. Because I went straight from school, MBA, and then working, owning my gym, pretty much, and doing a little physical therapy here on the side. So I did not know the day in, day out of running and operating a physical therapy business. I could have learned it 100%. If I felt that it would have taken me too much time where I've already have an established gym, and I'd rather partner with an established clinic. So we made a partnership, my other partner on the physical therapy side. So his name is Zach. So Zach and I formed a partnership with USA Sports Medicine. USA Sports Medicine formed a partnership with Movement Lab. So it's a revenue sharing. So as Movement Lab, as USA gets better, Movement Lab makes more money. So Movement Labs is incentivized in the growth of USA Sports Medicine in our Miami Lakes location. And I happen to be an owner of both.
That was a lovely breakdown right there. Yeah. And it kind of gives me some hope as well, because I feel like I've throughout my DPT curriculum, I've definitely spent a great deal of energy kind of developing myself as a strength conditioning coach, just finding that voice, that presence, where I do feel like I need more on the clinical side. So really looking forward to my upcoming rotations to kind of get that reasoning in.
Yep.
And then question for you, you mentioned, clinical experience with the OKC Thunder, right? So how, and I mean, kind of like a redundant question, right? Like how instrumental was that to get you where you are now? But do you see yourself doing the same things had you not had that clinical experience with the Thunder?
So it had pros and cons. So pros being I see a lot of high level elite cases in terms of on the performance side of things, because I was more on the strength conditioning side versus the pure medical in the NBA. So I see a lot more of that. On the cons, I hardly ever did evaluations just because I'm seeing the same people every single day. So it's not like a new evaluation where I got diagnosed, where I got to do all these tests and measures. And so you lose that side of your clinical decision making from a typical physical therapy perspective. So I didn't really see many immediate post-op. So that was one of my weaknesses as soon as I finished. And it still is one of my weaknesses, which is fine. Like we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. And it's about making our strengths at the forefront as to what we can do and just improving our weaknesses to try to decrease that gap. So pros and cons between both. I wouldn't be where I am now if it hadn't been for that internship, but I could have learned other things if I hadn't done that as well. I don't recommend it for everyone.
And I could totally see that. And again, I kind of love that perspective you provided right there.
Can I sneak in a question, Jose?
So I definitely want to say I noticed a few members kind of snuck in throughout the conversation. Guys, this is definitely casual, open format. Please, let's ask away.
So, Steven, what made you want to do the entrepreneurship private business like you're running right now, as opposed to being with an actual NBA team?
So my plan, I mean, I had already started the business before I had started with an NBA team. So I always knew that like this is going to be at least my home in Miami, where I live and where I grew up and where I know people out in this community. So I always knew there was going to be like I had my gym here. That was always going to be like my baby, you can say. And then my dream was to work in the NBA and to progress and be a director, performance, medical, all that stuff in the future. And COVID kind of changed that for me, where we didn't make the bubble. So just my boss at the Pistons was like, hey, you can work from home in Miami or from home in Detroit. I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm going home because I got other things going on and I can't let this either sink or swim. So I just started swimming as fast as I can. And I'm like, if we're gonna go down, we're gonna go down swinging and put all my resources in. I invested money into all these online because everyone's doing online training. I invested money into that, seeing if that worked. That went terrible. So I almost double sunk my ship, and that did not work out well. But it's all a learning experience. And my contract ran out in the Pistons, and it was still like a holding period. We didn't know what was happening next. So it was just like they're like, "Hey, sorry, but we don't know. We can't really keep paying you." I'm like, I totally understand. So that just ended on its own. And I had already established myself as a private person down here for both physical therapy and training.
So I snuck in, probably midway through. Can you just go back to like your background in regard to like what certifications you had prior?
Like
Yeah.
prior to PT school, or
Yeah.
so I did my CSES when I was just finishing undergrad. From there, I mean, that was just one of the main ones that I did. I've done FMS, SFMA. I did not do any of the FRC ones, but my business partner did, so I just kind of learned all his stuff from him, which is good because like at the end of the day, like all these certifications are just letters. It's just the knowledge behind it and how you utilize it that's the most important. So I'd rather learn from someone else than go through a certification and spend this money just for letters that for me I stopped putting behind my name. Like I've actually met Jose at a USAW certification. That's a USA weightlifting, which was brutal because we're doing a bunch of Olympic lifting all the entire weekend.
Damn.
My thumbs are still probably sore from like that hook gripping stuff, which for me it was cool because like it's going back to what I used to do when I was in the collegiate strength conditioning setting. So certifications, I'd like the ones that you're able to utilize the most without falling into that rabbit hole and thinking only in this tunnel of this certification, which a lot of people do, unfortunately.
Yeah. Awesome. And what about like, what do you see yourself, I guess, more at the clinician side as a physical therapist? Like, what are you using certification wise or like manual? What do you use pretty much in your daily treatments? Like, what is like
I did
your clinical bias?
Yeah, as I finished PT school, I did spinal manipulation. I did dry needling. I'm probably gonna take more courses on that because it's just a practice thing and learning different methods.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a lot of these athletes, and they're all very accustomed to a lot of manual work. So I do a lot of manual work, especially beginnings. Usually people start on the table for at least 10, 15 minutes, just trying to decrease tone, improve range of motion, joint mobility, joint play, all that fun stuff. And then we go straight to like a movement prep routine. So movement prep is what I consider like typical rehab. So it's a bunch of banded work, whatever they need from a physical standpoint, as far as like, I mean, I say dysfunctions, but I don't really tell them that. Like what we see as dysfunctions as clinical decision making, and addressing those in order to improve the ranges and to move better, but focus to a specific goal and task that we're working on that day. So I like to have ideas as to what the end goal is, because unfortunately here in Miami, sometimes I get people for a month, sometimes I get people for 2 weeks, sometimes get people for the whole off season as far as the athletes. So it varies as to what I'm able to do. So I'm trying to bring the most value I can in this window of opportunity, and for them to go somewhere else and be like, that person, when they, let's say they go back to the team and that team's gonna say like, wow, this person moves well, they're smarter, they know how to be able to take care of their own bodies, they know what is BS and what is not. So I really pride myself on that with an athlete perspective, even as well as my general population. Like these, I like them because they're able to try different things, and they have a cooler reaction. It takes a little bit more time, like teaching them things, and they're obviously not as advanced, but they have a much more fun interactions with. They see things like, because they haven't really trained or done more movement based stuff, so it's different for them. So it's more entertaining, as with my general population clients, surprisingly.
For sure. And then my last question is just like, as a future entry level clinician, like what's the number one advice that you would give us?
Keep learning. You're still a student. I'm still a student. We're always still a student.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so Dan brought up a good point, asking about the certifications. That kind of just leads me to this next question. What does continuing education look like for you? Especially, since you're running a business, kind of got the personal training, strength conditioning with the rehab. Where do we have time for that? And what any resources that you recommend?
I mean, continuing education, one, I think comes from your superiors and your peers. So trying to learn from them, because that is a resource that a lot of people don't really take advantage of. So I'm an open book with all my PTs, all my coaches, where if they need anything, they want to learn something, all right, let's, what do you want to learn about? And then that helps me because I'm teaching now. So I'm able to refresh myself and make sure I'm giving the right explanations, the right language as to what they need. And I'm a believer as like generalist are better than specialist. I know it's a odd way of saying it, but as a physical therapist, I'm able to train people. I'm able to do manual work. I'm able to do dry needling. I'm able to do spinal manipulation. I'm able to throw on the mitts and do boxing with them. I have the ability to run an entire spectrum from a rehab to performance case versus other people that only focus on one thing, I feel are limited. But yes, they're probably better at that one thing than I am. Yes, 100%. But from a business standpoint, you can see a lot more people if you are considered a generalist. I'm a specialist in sports, but generalist in general as far as what you do. So finding ways to add to your bucket from a continuing education standpoint, that's going to make you a more well-rounded clinician, not just so much a one particular thing. If that makes sense.
No, that was great. And I'm gonna repeat the same thing again, man. That's just a great perspective right there. And that kind of leads me to my next thought. I mean, we got Andy here, Dan. We're actually currently in the same cohort for a NFL Combine pre-draft training. And you mentioned it being off season right now. What is your involvement with NFL athletes, collegiate football looking like at the moment? Any
So
combines?
NFL-wise, we do a lot more on the physical therapy, rehab, recovery side of things, because these guys do a lot more field work, and I do not have that experience or ability to do those position-specific work. So we outsource that to someone else, and he does a fantastic job with it. So they also like lifting more in a group-based setting. So it's a little different for us where we do more of the private individualized work. So we do get guys that do lift and physical therapy with us, but we get a lot more guys that just do the physical therapy with us.
That makes sense. I could totally see that just from like a logistics kind of standpoint.
So they come in, the guys that lift stay a little bit longer. Usually the ones that lift are here for at least 2 hours as far as doing the prep work. And then a lot of it is geared towards, so for example, if they're on the field doing lateral change of direction work. So our physical therapy program is going to be geared towards improving those abilities, adding in some groin flexibility, some Copenhagen planks, loaded hip abduction work. So we're doing a little bit more isolated work and then translating that to what they're doing on the field with that strength coach.
That's lovely. That's lovely for sure. I see
I've
we
got
got
a
people.
last minute quick question for that board certified sports clinical like specialist. What is the process of going through that? Like, do you need like, is it kind of like your OCS where you need like a specific time in the clinic, or is it just like another kind of like test that you study for?
It is like an OCS where you can do the residency route, or you
Mhm.
can do the route which I did. I didn't do the residency, which I do recommend residencies just because it helps a lot from having that mentorship aspect. I already had all my hours from working in the NBA, so I didn't need the that comes with the residency. And then I already had a business. I didn't have a time to go through the residency aspect. So I had the hours. I just studied and sat for the exam and I passed.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kind of piggybacking off of that. How does the accrual of hours work there? Is that something that is post grad, or if you know you
No,
get
you
some
can do it while you're in business school.
really?
I believe so. Don't quote me, but I believe so.
Okay, yeah, no, that's something I need to look into. That's awesome right there. And then quick question, because I know Dr. Field today was at the Capitol, the Texas Capitol, doing all the advocacy stuff. What does direct access look like for you in your practice?
So in the state of Florida, we have 30 days direct access. We are out of network facility, so we do a lot of like self-pay and cash pay. So it's different for us, whereas we try to get a prescription referral, but a lot of times they just come to us and they just stay with us. So like I have clients that are see me once a week for the entire year, pretty much. So if it's self-pay and we're not billing insurances, the direct access, we're a little bit more lenient here because we're just not charging the insurance, so we don't really need direct access. So a lot of times they come in and say for maintenance. Do you really need a prescription referral for something along those lines? They're playing a high school sport. No. So direct access for us here is a little very flexible, especially being an out of network practice.
Okay, that was a lot to kind of digest there. That's awesome though. And then I see Dr. Field commented, wow, we have 10 to 15 here in Texas.
Wow.
That's yeah,
Hopefully that changes.
that's comforting. That's comforting. And then question, I know Dan, I'm pretty sure asked a question regarding any advice for, a PT student. You said kind of keep learning, kind of the same question, but shifting perspectives to a business owner, someone that's getting ready to launch a physical therapy clinic, physical therapy, mobile clinic, whatever that may be, something that we could do while we're in school to kind of get that ball rolling.
I'd say find mentors. Like my business partner at USA Sports Medicine, he's my mentor when it comes to physical therapy related business. They have 18 clinics now, I think. And he's been doing this for about 15 years. So finding people that have done what you want to do is very important, and developing those relationships where they want to see you grow and they want to teach you and show you the ropes. So that way it's a beneficial relationship.
I love that. And it's very simply put, but I feel like it's a challenge to kind of find people to kind of dedicate their time to you.
You got to
Is
put
that,
yourself out there. That's the only way.
right? Is that something, I mean, like I said, it's kind of crazy to think you graduated 2019. Have you found yourself in this role yet on the clinical side, kind of mentoring students, mentoring other,
I
what
mean,
was
we're in the process right now. So like our clinic location actually opened up in August, you can say. So we've only been at clinic for a period of 5, 6 months, what is it? Yeah, 6, 7 months where we have a full-time clinic. So, and that was at the end of our off-season standpoint for NBA and NFL. So that was kind of entering our slow season. So now is when we're picking up again, where the off-season NFL starting up, and we still have our general population clients. So we haven't had any students yet, but we do plan to have one actually, I think, coming in 2 months. So we'll have a student starting up with us, which will be fun experience for us to teach them. We definitely need the help, and that way it's a win-win for them and for us, and they get very high-end valuable experience when it comes to business, when it comes to strength conditioning, when it comes to physical therapy, clinical decision making. So we try to make it all encompassing thing where it's what they want to learn is what we're going to teach them. Like we have interns for the movement lab side, and then we teach them. We have like a full curriculum where we teach them things, where we sit down, we'll host weekend seminars for them. We're just trying to teach them as much as they can, and as long as they're a sponge and they want to learn, we'll keep teaching.
Man, that is awesome. That definitely sounds like a comprehensive learning experience right there. I see somebody dropped a question. We got Amari here. How important is branding to you?
Very important. Branding is, people need to know what your thing is. So if you don't have a brand, if you're just a person, you're just limited to yourself. Versus Movement Lab is a brand. Movement Lab can exist without Stefan. So I helped develop that brand, and that brand, yeah, I'm attached to it, but it's not necessarily attached to me. So from a business standpoint, you always need to think like you're going to build it as if you intend to sell it. So that way it's valuable to someone else, not to only yourself. So taking out the pride aspect and building a brand, the brand is who's made up of it. So our coaches help make the brand, not just me. So finding the right coaches to help increase the exposure, increase the brand awareness and what the brand stands for, and have the right like morals according to the brand is most important.
Oh, I like all of that. That's cool. That was a great question, Amari. And then you mentioned, building out that roster of coaches. I think you've touched on your PT partner, Dr. Zach Coles. What does building out that PT roster is kind of the same thing? Is that something in line for the Movement Lab, or is that still?
Fortunately, USA Sports Medicine already has a very well-known brand down here in Miami. So they've already built that brand for us. We just kind of align as far as values and growth and potential. So we're just kind of hopping in on their train and just moving forward, which makes my life easier because then I can focus on both.
Right. Kind of just ride that momentum. Okay. On both parties, beneficial. I like that. So question to you, because I know, and honestly, I'm loving everything you're saying as far as how heavy into the performance side, your day-to-day and your career has been. Map out, and I know you kind of said it's getting busier more on the off-season side, but what does just a general or the average day, and if there is an average day, what does that look like at the Movement Lab from the clinician side and then from like just the business owner side?
So typically I would have clients starting at 8 till about 12 to 1 or so. And I try not to do it in the beginning. I wanted to do everything one-on-one, which is always nice, but it's never ideal. One, from a financial standpoint, and two, you can do still a really good job with 2 people in an hour. That's what I try to strive for. So I have patients every 30 minutes. I have a combination of pro athletes there. I'm fortunate enough where we have help as far as coaches, as far as other PTs, Zach, my other partner, Miguel. So they're willing to help out because these athletes do take up a lot of time. If I'm doing one-on-one with an athlete and they're here for 2 hours, they either got to be paying a very hefty penny, or they got to be okay with me seeing other people in that 2-hour span. So typically what I do is, like, let's say an athlete comes in, because a lot of times, yeah, they do come in for me. So they come in to train with me and do PT with me. So on 3 days of the week, they're doing PT with me, but then they're training with someone else. And then on the other day, let's say they're training with me, but then they're doing PT with Zach. So that allows the flexibility to say, I need to travel somewhere, I just want to go on vacation. We don't lose this clientele because they've already have an established relationship with other coaches, with other physical therapists, and it kind of works well where everyone's just kind of building and growing together. We're not limited by just one person. So the brand, going back to the brand awareness, the brand is separate from me.
That is huge right there from just an availability standpoint. So question to you, because I know, I mentioned this combine experience I'm getting working with athletes, you find yourself doing a lot of things. And I'm just thinking from like a time management standpoint, right? You alluded to having the help.
We missed the last question. So day to day, 8 to like 12, 1-ish, seeing patients. 1-ish to let's say 3, 4-ish is when I start dealing with more of administrative work, notes, business stuff, relationships, lunches. And then from 4 till about 7 is when I start seeing patients again. Sorry, I completely eluded that question.
No, you're good. No, you're good. That's definitely a full day. Getting a little bit of everything in there. I see the comment mentioned we're still getting our workout in. I love that. Definitely a priority, right?
You gotta do your workout. You gotta take care of yourself before you take care of others.
That's awesome, Stefan. I mean, I think we've touched on a lot. I appreciate the transparency. I'm sure all of us can here. Are there any last remarks, any questions before we wrap it up and just kind of be respectful of Dr. Stefan's time?
Just
Yeah.
one quick question. I got to take a look at like your actual Instagram page for the movement labs.
Mhm.
Are you doing your own marketing in regard or video editing, or are you outsourcing that?
We outsource that. So
Okay.
if it's like a regular reel, like it looks like someone did it on an iPhone, then yeah, we did that. If
Okay.
it's looking like professional, which we have a combination of both, because you can't pay for only just professional, then you're gonna run out of money.
Yeah.
So to have like 3 or 4 viewers before you do like a professional one in there, because it's just an iPhone, and nowadays iPhones are real nice as far as cameras, and you can record things, and it's the consistency is most important.
Mhm.
I personally suck at it. My partner Zach is probably the best. He's at 7 a.m. every single day, 8 days a week, posting on Instagram, which he crushes it. He makes money. He gets brand sponsorships. I may get like one sponsorship here and there, but he kills it with everything related to social media.
Awesome. Thank you.
So,
No, that's great. So then definitely social media plays a big role in your business.
yeah, it's like a portfolio. So let's say someone sends, I don't have as much stuff as I do on mine, but let's say someone sends me out to someone else as a referral. Oh, you should check this guy out. One, they're gonna check on your social media, see what you do as far as workouts, who you're training, who you know, what you do in general, who you are. So it's like a little portfolio, quick snippet of me and my work. Like all my social media is just only business related. So me and my work, and that way they see what they're gonna get before they come in. And if they like that style, and if they want something along those lines, then it would be a good fit. So it's needed. Necessary evil is what I say.
Definitely a necessary evil. And I mean, ironically enough, a lot of my educational experiences, internships, they have been sought out through social media, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, so like you said, necessary evil. I'm definitely never going to knock it.
I mean, you have the ability to connect with so many people just on social media.
Yeah. And then just
Learning too, to be honest. You
sharing.
follow, I mean,
too.
there's the goods and the bad with it. Like, let's say you follow a bunch of people that cult like place like I'm not gonna name names, but cult like in terms of what they do and who they are and all that stuff. And then there's also the good ones that put out a bunch of educational content, have research stuff in it. And those are the ones you do want to follow, because those are the ones who are going to bring value to you from a continuing education standpoint. So you can learn from social media if you have your own beliefs and your own rubric as to what is good and what is bad.
Nice. That was well said. Definitely a good spot to end the night on right there. Again, guys, Dr.
Build
Stefan
your social
Valdes.
medias. I will too.
Say that again.
So build your social medias, and I will too. We all need.
Gotcha. Dang. Okay. So we'll end it with that. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks for attending. It's been a great conversation here. Dr. Valdes, thank you again.
No problem.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Good luck.
Peace out, y'all.